My name's Leszek, and I will be talking to Valentin Gönczy about transition from traditional careers to tech startups and renewable energy adoption. Can you provide a brief overview of your career path leading up to your current role as a CPO and a co-founder of Cloover?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks for being here. My background is pretty weird, I would say, because I actually studied law school in Geneva and in the UK. Then I passed the bar in Geneva. I worked as a lawyer in a business law firm in Geneva, one of the biggest one of Switzerland. And I also spent some time in a private bank doing a bit more of compliance and banking law. So it was very far away from being like in a high growth startup. But in 2016, I decided to launch my first software company. It was called Infinite. It was some kind of TripAdvisor for nightlife. So you could like download the mobile app and then you could see like what's happening around you, book tickets and stuff like that. And we also had another part of the business, which was some kind of B2B SaaS for the nightlife venues. So the bars, the clubs, they could, manage their tables, sell tickets online and so on.
How did it work out, by the way?
We had a great traction. We had more than 100K monthly active users on the mobile app. We sold more than 1 million tickets. It was mostly in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, Geneva and Lausanne, and we also expanded to Paris. But in 2020, COVID hit, and I have to say we pulled the plug. And I think it was a good choice because it was for 2 years then that it was no nightlife or nothing. But it was a great experience for me. This is really where I kind of like learn how to develop a bit, to code. I developed the web platform myself. My co-founder took the lead on the mobile part. And it was, such a great experience to learn a lot. After Infinite in this first journey, I decided to work again in the more like traditional legal industry. And then in 2000, so a bit more than two years ago, in 2022, I decided I wanted to launch something else. I'm still young. I think I want to do something cool again before like dying as a lawyer. So I decided I would launch another project that I had in mind was called a ROC. The idea was to kind of democratize real estate investment, making it possible for everyone to invest in real estate from $10 in 10 minutes. That was the promise, right? So I started working on that, building the MVP. We actually financed a first building with the community we had. But along the way, I met my founder, Yodok, which was already working on the idea of Cloover. And he kind of really hooked me with like the potential of Cloover and what we could do together. It was a great match in terms of like personality and skills. So I decided that it was very opportunistically. I decided that I liked the Cloover idea and the Cloover vision more. And I just decided to drop ROC to co-found Cloover. So I'm currently sitting as a chief product officer at Cloover, making sure we can build a great product for what we want to do, which is to connect 1 billion people to renewable energy.
Do your lawyer background sometimes come in handy with your work like at Cloover?
Yeah, for sure. At Cloover, I'm going to tell more about what we do, but we have heavy regulation around us and so on. So it's quite useful to have this background. But also just in my day-to-day, I think it brought me kind of a unique skill set of being very, I think if you're a lawyer, it needs to be very like squared and like, like follow the proceedings and so on. And it can be very boring, but if you apply the skills to something else, like product development, it can bring you like a very
structured approach to things.
Exactly. So I think I'm kind of very good at like just executing stuff, like because I learned how to do that.
Let's get into the concept of Cloover. I'm really interested in that. I obviously researched it before, but can you describe what core problem does Cloover aim to solve, and what are the primary services and solutions you guys offer?
The core business of Cloover is to offer embedded financing options to renewable energy installers. So the idea and like what we saw in the market is that now the mass market is coming to renewable energy, right? So in the first 20 years in Europe, it was more like the tech savvy or the people very interested into the topic. And now we're seeing that it's going to be like every house of Europe at some point. And we'll say it's mass market means this of financing, right? Because not everyone will
Can
spend
afford it.
like 30K, 40K, 50K sometimes to buy like solar panels and the battery that comes with it. And in terms of financing, of course, you have your bank, right? You can go to see your bank, but we just realized that it was like not sufficient, right? There is no embedded process. So basically the installer will tell the customer, oh yeah, please go take a loan with your bank. It would take 3 weeks. You would need to fill a lot of paperwork. The bank will do some like back and forth. And at the end of the day, maybe the customer will churn, right? Because we'll say, oh, it's too complex, so I'll just drop. And that's brand roof which doesn't have solar panels.
You know, specific like type of financing for that kind of ventures. I know, yeah.
Exactly. So we decided that what was needed was to offer the installers like embedded financing options directly into their sales channel. So the idea is that with Cloover, if you're solar panel installers, you're gonna see a customer. The customer doesn't want to pay cash. In one click, he can get access to a monthly payments instead of putting everything. So basically, you get access to renewable energy savings from day one without like investing or risking anything.
Where are you currently operating? Where you can actually, get those solar cells?
So currently we're in 4 different markets: Sweden, Germany, Netherlands, and Switzerland. So that's the 4 markets. But our core market is definitely Germany, which is the biggest one, which is also the one with the more like headwinds, I would say. With government pushing a lot for the energy transition. They are very dependent of the Russian gas, and they try to now also they switched off all the nuclear plants, so they really need to go into that direction.
Is it challenging? I mean, on the sort of compliance or regulatory front to operate in those different markets. I mean, I think like the renewable energy might be regulated differently across different countries, even in Europe or EU. And but also financing might be a challenge. I can only assume, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's two tricky parts on that. There is the proper regulation, and this is more linked to the financing part of the business than the renewable energy. Because if you say financing, you say regulation, right? And in every country it's different. Of course, it's somehow harmonized in Europe, but still you need to apply for different stuff in. So the idea for us is to try to be not regulated as much as possible, but of course we have always some things we need to comply with, and that's a big challenge because every time we enter a market, we need to do like legal analysis with law firms and so on. And then I would say that the tricky part, like related to renewable energy across markets, is more the subsidy part, because every government is like giving you subsidies for renewable energy, but it's completely different from one place to another one, right? Give you an example, in Germany, it's very straightforward. It's like you get 0% VAT on your purchase. But in Sweden, for example, it's a tax deduction.
Yeah.
All countries have their different like secret recipe, and that makes like very difficult to build a product which is like, working across all markets.
Mm-hmm. Can you provide an update on the current state of the business? We talked about a little bit about the markets, but like, how do you consider your stage of the business? Meaning, do you consider you have already reached some kind of product market fit and it's now becoming a sort of scaling oriented company? How do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, it's great timing that we record this podcast today, because 2 days ago we just announced our seed round. So we raised we raised 114 million in funding, led by Lower Carbon Capital, a US VC, and also.
Can you repeat the number? Is
114.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was a mix of debt and equity, right? So we have some debt to finance the asset, and we have some equity to grow. But it was a great achievement because we brought in a US VC, right, Lower Carbon, which is the fund created by Chris Sacca, the famous investor. So it's a big sign to the market, and it will allow us to grow. In terms of where we stand today, I think we're not yet to the product market fit. I think we now see that there is something, we're onto something, and we have traction. But I think we now need to like improve the conversion rates and like having maybe a more like a sales playbook, right? To kind of like being able to scale to the next dimension, which is what we want to do in the next 18 months. But we're also seeing that we have more to do, because basically what we offer now to the installers is embedded financing options they all happy to take it. They really love it. But and why they love it is that the biggest player, I don't know if you know about NPAL or 1,5, these huge installers that cover a lot of installations in Germany, for example, but also in Europe, they play with different tools, right? They have their own financing department. They offer like a very attractive rates to their customer. They have very sophisticated like tech tools, right? But still 85% of the installations in Germany are done by the SMEs, right? The small installers, the mom and pop shop, I would say. And what we want to do is not only give them the financing tools to serve those customers, but also the tech tools, right? So we were now like doubling down on our software to not just offer financing options, but also offer a CRM, sales tool to all these, small companies that want to be able to compete with the biggest one.
So actually you want to serve two markets in a way. You're really consumer-centric on this front and the other front as well. And you want to keep those both parts happy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think financing is a great entry to market because it's needed, right? There is no doubt. Like everybody wants it. Every installer is like, yeah, for sure, we're gonna have more customers, right? Because otherwise they would not have been able to buy the asset, right? But then we see that okay, now we are in the installer process. Why we should not like improve also their day-to-day process or something like that, right?
And how do you think how it works with the current state of the economy, meaning rates are being a little bit higher than usual? My first thought is that, it's actually a great time to do this because you're getting ahead of everybody else because like eventually the rate's going to probably go down and that when, maybe it will boost the financing as well. It's going to be cheaper. Everything's going to be cheaper, and probably the demand will also grow as well. That's my way of thinking. But how do you see that?
Yeah, it's completely right. I think it's probably the worst time ever to launch a financing business. But at the same time, I always think that it's great to build during bear markets and
exactly
when when there is the bull market, right?
Exactly, you're getting ready for the bull market.
Exactly, and I really like that. But yeah, you're right. Of course, like our financing options are more expensive for customers, so it means less conversion. People choose to pay cash more than 3 years ago when you're going to get financed your solar panel at 1-2%. Of course, you would take it, right? So yeah, in overall, I think also the solar panel and market just took a huge hit. So 2023 and 2022 were great years, right? Because you had like the war in Russia, the cost of energy really increased a lot, and everybody was like, "Whoa, I'm very afraid I'm going to pay a lot. I need to put solar panels on my roof." And basically, what happened is that all installers in 2022. The order book was full. They didn't care about getting more clients. They were like, yeah, it's nice financing. We don't need it. Now we'd have like people lining up to pay in cash, right? So, but now like market crashed like more than 30%, 50% in some countries. A lot of solar installers go bankrupt. There is really a downturn in the industry. But again, I also see that as an opportunity to be ready when it comes back.
Isn't that the case that like many of those, Magnificent Seven companies actually was originated in the period of either some bubble that just burst or like some stagnation? I think that's the case. Google did for sure.
I listened to a podcast about that the other day. It was like giving some examples of very crazy people back in the days, but they were proven right.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you are facing now that you want to solve internally?
Yeah, I think our biggest challenge and why we have not reached the product market fit yet is this conversion rate that we get with installers. Yeah, I mentioned that because you need to understand that I think the CEO of those companies, they understand very well like why financing is important, why also for them getting recurring revenue is important as well. But then we have a hard time to pass this understanding to the sales rep who's on the field, who's closing customer. And this guy is not very sophisticated, doesn't know about financing, doesn't know how to pitch financing. It's very hard.
Yeah.
So we really struggle to reach that person to get him educated and then to be able to sell our product better, right? Because at the end of the day, we're a B2B2C approach, right?
Yeah.
Without them, we're nothing, right?
Yeah.
And for us now, it's the main priority to try to improve that. So maybe it's going to be, education or incentivization of the sales rep. But yeah, we really struggle to kind of make them being able to pitch a very sophisticated financing product.
Let's talk about operations. You guys are a distributed team. Your team is spread across Europe. And I like to ask what tools, techniques, tactics work for you, to facilitate the remote collaboration to make it productive.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit of course around that is that, so the company was a Swedish company at the beginning, right? So the water core is still in Sweden. And so we that was also the first market we entered, right? So we had some employees in Sweden. Then we decided to enter the Dutch and the German market. So we have people there and there. And at the end of the day, we entered Switzerland because we decided to both to buy another startup that was operating in the
same area
and the German-speaking area.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was more opportunistic. But yeah, at the end of the day, we found ourselves with like 4 different offices, people across, and of course all the challenges that come with it. I think that I'm a big fan of remote working. I think that's a very good thing that COVID brought us, right? I think you're very productive and so on. But I think it's also very challenging to build a company culture around that. So our vision is always like communicate as much as possible and not just work, because I think when you're working remotely and you do a call, you always just end up talking about work. And when you say a bit of chit-chatting, it just stops after 2 minutes, right? Because you're, okay, let's move to the topic. Whereas if you were at the coffee machine, you probably would have 5-10 minutes discussing about your weekend. So what we do is that we force everyone to do one-on-one per week with everyone. So we just like 15 minutes of chit-chatting, like how it's going and so on, just to get to know each other. And of course, to try to be as much as possible together. So we organize like a kind of summit in Berlin where we bring everybody in to just,
nice.
Spend some time together. Yeah, there's that. Yes. Of course, I didn't mention, of course, the tools, right? I think, for example, the huddle mode on Slack is very cool for a remote team, because it's not like you schedule a call. It's just like you jump in, right? And it feels like you would like open the door of your colleague, right? So we also have this policy of like, just like you huddle me whenever you want. And that kind of reproduce that.
Yeah. With that financing, I can assume that the team will continue to grow.
Yeah.
And in that sense, do you want to keep some of those tactics going on? You want to introduce something more? I mean, the bigger the company, the harder it gets to be remote and have this culture growing like you like. So, I mean, I can only imagine that, like, I absolutely love this idea of having one-on-ones with everyone. When you're 100 people or 200 people, it just like becomes impossible. Exactly. And you have to sort of reinvent yourself, or reinvent, the way you operate. But
yeah, no, you're right. It's going to be a challenge, right? We're now like a bit less than 15. We want to be 30 at the end of the year. And so that's still a good growth, right? And we know that we're not going to be able to keep what we do today, right? So we will need to think about other means, other ways. Maybe leveraging more on this summit that we organized and make sure everyone in
every quarter, that seems like a really great idea. I mean, at least right now you're based in Europe, so like flying over to Berlin doesn't seem like a big of a thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, people from Amsterdam, they can take the train. I also used to take a night train from Zurich, so it's quite it's quite easy. And I just wake up and I'm in Berlin and we can.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I take trains to Berlin too, so it's the easiest way to get there. Actually, it's flying. But anyway.
But yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. We're aware of it, of course, and I mean, being multiple markets as upside for sure, but also downside. And that's one of the big one. Really try to stick together. Also on the founder level, right? We're distributed. Like co-founder Peter is in Amsterdam, Jörg is leading the team in Berlin, and I'm in Geneva. And also, just for us to stay together, spend some time is really important for us.
Let's shift the gears a bit and talk about product management and your approach to customer-centric innovation. How does Cloover identify and address the needs of its customers? It seems that you've got 2 kinds of customers, and I'm interested in your process, how you work with those 2 groups.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's very important to be customer-centric, because that's really the big mistake that I did in my previous company, Infinite. I think we're younger and we spent a lot of time thinking we knew what the market wanted, and we just discovered the hard way that it was not the case, right? So and it was back days, we didn't have all the tools we have today to code rapidly, right? So I would say we would spend 6 months on a feature just to launch it and see okay, nobody wants it. And for me, that was really the biggest learning ever. So at Cloover, we have a very customer-centric approach. So how it works is that our sales guy, they spend entire days with our customers. So when I say customers, I mean installers here, of course, just trying to understand like what are their pain points, how do they use the product, what's missing, and then they report to some kind of they can fill scorecards, and then we have like some board where we see like recurring issues, and then we prioritize that on product development. On the end customer side, it's always a bit more tricky, right? Because we don't have a very nice, very good like relationship with them. It's just a financer, right? They just pay like interest to us every month. But then we try to leverage as much as possible data, right? So we use Google Analytics and all those tools to kind of see, okay, where they drop, what's the blocker, and so on.
Do you speak with any of those groups yourself, or?
I don't, because we do that mostly in Germany, which is our focus market. I speak a bit of German, but probably not enough to go in front of a customer. But yeah, we try, the account managers take care of that.
Can you share an example of customer feedback that significantly influenced your product development? Was there any feedback like this, or basically whether development or thinking about product?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think one of the recent example we had is that we always thought we're going to build like integration with CRM for the installers, meaning that we're not going to be pretentious and say we're going to replace HubSpot, right? They use HubSpot, it's great, like let's not try to do it, let's try to integrate with the API of HubSpot. And we always thought like this because we use HubSpot in a very sophisticated way at Cloover, right? We are very data driven and like excellence in that area. And after talking to the installers and after seeing what he was doing on HubSpot, it was literally just like dragging and dropping cars on HubSpot. And we're like, this is probably not too complicated, right? And we were struggling to build this integration for him. And basically we just decided to build a very simple CRM, right? And we end up seeing that, okay, most of them, it's enough for them, right? They don't need all the sophisticated features that HubSpot can give you, right? Because it's just like medium-sized companies, like it's always already a good thing to have a CRM. So
CRM is a tricky thing, generally speaking.
Yeah, but like it was something we thought it's impossible we go into that direction. And then after seeing what was required and what was the pain point of the installer, we're like, okay, this is definitely something we can do. And we did it, and now we're super happy with just using Cloover instead of having two softwares to use. So this is typically something that if we didn't go to see the actual customers, like how it operates during 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, we would not have been able to think about this feature. And now it's one of the I would say the selling point of Cloover for some of the installers.
I've got one more question that is really intriguing to me. Can you talk a little bit about your financing journey?
So I think for us, there is two big challenges when it comes to funding. There's the debt side, because how it works, our model, we keep the asset on our balance sheet. So meaning we finance them, right? So we finance the solar panel on the customers. So we need to get this financing somewhere. We're not going to use our own equity. So the first challenge of Cloover was getting those credit facility, right? Very hard. Very hard. Thank God we had one of my co-founders had some very good connections at banks and so on, and we managed to get the first facility. Now we just raised the second one of 100 million. So this is going fine, but it's very, very challenging because it's like, go see a bank and tell them you need 100 million to finance, solar panels on the roof. They don't know how solar panel works, the economics and so on. So very challenging. And that takes a lot of time to my co-founder and CFO, Peter. Then on the other side, the equity raise as well, right? So just to finance the growth of the company, I would say very hard as well. At least the first round, the pre-seed round, where of course you have less to prove, right? We had we had an MVP, we had like 20 customers or so.
Oh, nice.
20 end customers, so just one or two installers. So we had a little bit of traction, but still like very hard to get them on board. But once you do, and that's my learning, once you have your lead investor, then all the other ones, they just want to get in, right? And all the one that passed, then they say, please take my money, right? So it's a very, I would say, I don't really like this vibe of the VC space, right? Because it's all about optics, right? And I think for the second round that we just closed now, it was honestly, without any pretension or whatever, it was quite easy in the sense that we had, good headwinds. I think we closed that in less than 1 month or 2 months, which is very short for such a such fundraising. But of course, every time it's going to be a challenge. In 2 years, we're going to have the Series A, even more challenging, and I think it will never stop. But yeah, we really want to grow fast, and for that we need money to just accelerate.
Yeah, I mean, eventually maybe it becomes of a race, and people come up with the similar products or copycats or whatever. I think it's you have to be fast.
Exactly. I think one of the learning from this round was that we wanted to show everyone that in Europe, Cloover is the category definer, right? Okay. And that was what Lower Carbon said, guys. We're a US fund. We don't really invest in Europe. Now we're doing it like Cloover is the one. So don't try. That's kind of the message they wanted to send to the other ones, right? And that's the big round and so on. Okay. And I think it's really important because what we're seeing now in this financing, so it's going to be a land grab, right? It's going to be the quicker you execute, the quicker you get the market. Because, of course, financing is complicated. It's hard, but there is no real moat, right? Everybody can finance everyone, right? It's a very competitive market as well in the consumer side of the business. So it's really about being fast and grab the market as quickly as possible.
That's the moat, being big.
Yeah, exactly. Execute quickly, being big, and then when you reach certain points, it's gonna be hard for competitors to go after you.
It seems that you have you already shared a lot of lessons learned. But anything else you've learned over the recent years with Cloover, but previous ventures that was like a life-changing thing? You mentioned talking with clients. You mentioned this and that. There are so many things to take away from our conversations so far. Was anything else that we find critical?
Yeah, I think something that just comes to my mind is really working on having a mission and a vision for the company. And that's something that I thought was really very theoretical, I'm very down to earth. I like to execute, so I'm not into this kind of thinking. But I remember when we launched the company, we took a week working on that. Okay, what is the principle of Cloover? What is our mission, vision? We want to connect 1 billion people to renewable energy. That's very powerful, right? And this work that I thought was not useful, it ended up being the biggest thing ever at Cloover. Because thanks to that, we just attract top talents. We attract people that don't just want to work with a startup. They want to change. They want to fix the biggest challenge of our generation. They want to accomplish something big. And when you drive people with this kind of mindset, they just go to work every Monday with a big smile because they feel like they're part of a big mission. So I would say thinking bigger than you think always. We don't want to become a unicorn. We want to become a decacorn, and always this kind of thinking will just help drive all your company towards your goal.
I'd like to end it with this thought. It was really really cool. Thank you for the valuable insights, Valentin.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you.
Better Tech Leadership powered by Brainhub. Follow Leszek on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Better Tech Leadership newsletter.